hello everybody. As always, I like to start on time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Barie Hasib. I'm Managing Director of BIMREC. BIMREC are described by their clients as an essential BIM recruitment partner. Really passionate about adding value to the market and helping you guys win with BIM. I'm joined today by David Philp. David is the EMEA BIM Director for ACOM and Head of BIM for UK BIM Task Group. He's presenting today on what is required for Level 2 BIM compliance. Once again, if you're on this live and you have any questions, please put them to the right-hand side chat box. If you're watching this back on the video, please do not hesitate to send an email to webinars@bimrec.com. That's BIMREC.com. With that said, David, I'm just going to make you a presenter and then it will show your screen. Bear with me. David, over to you.
There we go. Thank you, Barry.
You're more than welcome.
Hopefully everyone can see the screen. As Barry said, I'm David Philp. I'm Head of BIM for the UK BIM Task Group, and this afternoon I'm going to take you through a journey in terms of Level 2 BIM programme and some of the considerations you need to make in terms of getting ready for this new level of BIM maturity. So I hope you enjoy the next part of the session. Just starting off then, that's me, David Philp, and so I'm head of the BIM Task Group, working with my colleagues, and for the last 4 years we've been trying to build this thing called Level 2 BIM maturity. And I think what we've seen in terms of our genesis since we started the programme, that around about the world, governments are starting to provide funds of stimulus, or indeed starting to create their own BIM task groups. We're seeing in France and Germany, and we're seeing more and more, if you like, BIM deliverables, both in the public and private sector around this called Level 2 BIM. And I think for us, it's not a matter of if BIM, but actually, are you going fast enough in terms of that journey to implement Level 2 BIM? And I think it's always fair to say, we often talk about Level 2, but the first question you've got to ask in terms of your own organisation is actually, have you reached Level 1? So you've got to go for a journey from 1 to 2 to go through things. So I'll come on to that during the currency of the presentation. What we're all starting to see is, BIM means many different things to many different people, but at last it's giving us the opportunity, especially through the Level 2 paradigm, to think more and more about how we actually virtually test the asset lifecycle, how we model it in terms of virtual production, how we analyse it, and how we can actually start to evaluate it in terms of how we got the optimum performance that's coming through. Now that starts right at the very beginning. We often forget that actually this is about digital briefing for a client, putting out computational requirements in an electronic format. So when we talk about being ready for BIM, it's not just about the supply chain, but also our client groups as well that are starting to put our briefs out in electronic format and start to think more and more about digital procurement as well. We're seeing under Level 2 as well, build better before built. If you like, our 4 Bs, where we're building virtually in the model, we're coordinating, and then we're starting to think about optimization. And that optimization is indeed beyond delivery as well, where we're starting to think about optimization of operation, both from a facilities management point, but more and more starting to think about actually how do we think about business simulation as well. So I get the better business outcomes in terms of what we're doing as we go through that genesis. I think BIM and Level 2 BIM especially has become a bit of a Trojan horse. It's become that metaphor for industry change. And through Level 2, we're starting to think about, what our sector look like using computer readable data. And that's a big thing for us when we think about Level 2. It's about being able to transact on these different data sets. So it's a key thing in terms of that. So for us, BIM has actually came, and voice it means many things to many different people. It's about different ways of project delivery using these digital data sets in a collaborative manner. One of the things I think it's fair to say as well, when we look at Level 2, is actually, BIM, is it just happening in the UK, in these shores, or is it beyond? And actually what we're seeing more and more is all these other countries starting to actually move in their BIM journey as well. And I like the quote, this is from Construction Manager magazine, that Singapore is now actually going for a period of hyper-modernisation. And I think that's quite key. We should not think about BIM in the alone. And one of the key successes to Level 2 BIM in the UK has been part of that wider government construction strategy. So not just what about BIM, but how we actually start to think about new forms of procurement round about that as well. I think that's taken us to a really good place. In fact, this was a good article that was seen in, it was back on the 25th of February in Italy's main economic paper. It done an analysis, if you like, of key countries in terms of their BIM journey. And it noted that the UK is probably most advanced because of advancement of our tools, the wraparound at Level 2, and indeed the work of the task group to raise awareness and test the hypothesis. So when we talk about being ready for Level 2 requirements, it's fair to say we probably have best in class. Alongside, we've got clients now, high speed 2, that are looking, if you like, to have Level 2 as a minimum standard. So we have now got flagship clients that are demanding Level 2 as well, to start to think about how we better collaborate and how we make smarter, better decisions for our assets. But in terms of our journey in the UK, this is probably the thing that kick-started it all. This is going back to 2011, the government construction strategy. This set out a requirement for then what we refer to as collaborative 3D BIM, and start to also think about non-graphical data via an electronic format, irrespective of project value by 2016. So it was a key in terms of government, industry working together in partnership to start to think about the digitization of our built environment. So we're on that journey, and 2016 is getting closer every month. And you can see that on the left-hand side, it's starting to show actually, the value proposition of this thing called Level 2 BIM, saving from 12% all the way to 20% in terms of early departmental adopters. We can also see the size of the pipeline. That was a snapshot last year, back in autumn. There's almost 10 billion coming through the pipeline. We're probably exceeded that now. And when we add high speed 2, Thames Tidal onto that, there's probably at least 50 billion of Level 2 projects now coming through the pipeline in the UK public sector. But as you get ready, well, what is it all about? Well, number one, it's about, I think, three things. The heavy lifting has been building about processes, tools, and guides. And they're the things that make up, if you like, Level 2, that give us consistency and approach. And you can see some of the standards there. We're now going to try and unpack this in terms of what we got to do to get ready. Well, the first thing is, let's try and understand what Level 2 BIM is. So Level 2 BIM maturity is a series of models. So we've got what we call, if you like, domain models. So the domain model might be an architectural model, a structural model, a building services model. So from a commercial point of view, we're still working in their own domains with models that are both geometrical in nature, but also contain or have relational non-graphical data. It might be in terms of cost or program. We've also got the federated model that we bring together, maybe for coordination purposes or sharing or analysing. But again, these are prepared by different parties during all the different stages of plan of work. But the key thing is the context of a common data environment. So we talk about Level 2 BIM, in fact Level 1, number one is a common data environment. So that's key, our key foundation in terms of what we're doing. So in terms of Level 2, our project participants have defined, validated outputs. So we're thinking about transactional digital data that's defined and we can actually validate. And our proprietary information exchanges, but in a very much a reusable form, in our case in terms of COBE. So many ways of achieving it, but many ways of reusing it as well. So that's kind of Level 2 as a minimum standard. And what Level 2 lets us do, and lets our clients do, is buy our data only once. So you can see along the top, we've got plan of work at stages 0 to 7. And traditionally, we go for a rather sawtooth approach where we go for a stage, we'll lose that information, we buy it again. But BIM, as you can see, it continues to grow, and we're probably making earlier, more well-informed decisions. But Level 2 is also about, if you like, the role of the client within this as well. So we mentioned the client is becoming very good at defining your employer's information requirement. What information do I need? What plain language questions do I have to define? So as part of Level 2, the big part is for, if you like, for the client and their professional team to start becoming very good at explicitly defining what information they need at each of the different stages, and indeed the responsibilities around about that as well. We should also never forget in terms of Level 2 that employers' information requirement will keep cascading down from the client to the first tier, maybe if you like our lead designer or main contractor who'll step it down, if you like, right through to our manufacturers or specialist subcontractors. But as we go through the processes in more detail, one of the big things we go back is actually the foundation of Level 1 BIM. So Level 1 BIM, BS 1192-2007, or Common Data Environment, coupled together with BS 7000, Part 4 Design Management. These are the key elements for Level 1, but also the foundation for Level 2 as well. In our first document, PAS 1192, our Information Management Cycle for the capital expenditure and the governance of that, is actually very much built upon that initial Level 1 foundation. So please don't jump to Level 2 without going through Level 1. The PAS 1192 Part 2 looks at the management of information during that project information model of the PIM. You can see the document there on the left-hand side, and you can see how it fits on the right-hand side as well. Right in the centre of our cone, we've got our information management, PAS 1192 Part 2. Supporting that, we have COBE, BS 1192 Part 4 is a tool for information exchange, a method of exchanging information, along with another tool, the CIC BIM protocol, to then wrap that requirements, the requirements for information exchange, into the contract or the subcontract appointment. We've also got other supporting tools which will come out later this year, around about, if you like, a beta launch in Easter of this year. We've got a core classification system, the latest version of Uniclass, along with the digital plan of work that will help us start to describe both geometrical information and non-graphical at these various stages. And these last two tools have been won by Viva Enterprises as part of an Innovate UK programme. But these four things will start to build the tools that support our information management. You can start to see coming out there in terms of value realisation some of the things we can start to do with these data set. We can think about plain language query, we can query it, we can start to think about analysis, we can start to think about scenario planning in terms of construction sequences. We come to our outer layers of the onion as well. We can see there BS 536, which is starting to look at soft landings. It's an existing standard that looks in terms of better ways of briefing, especially in the context of BIM. We also have coming out this year as well is PAS 1192 Part 5 2015, which is a specification, if you like, for mindful security BIM and digital environments for smart asset management. So during this year, all these tools, processes will be complete to bring together Level 2. Now these can then be configured for any individual project requirements. We can see the process here on the right-hand side. This is an extract from Part 2. But interesting enough, it starts on the right-hand side. We've got a repeat client. What information do I know I want, in terms of organizational requirements that are coming through, or asset information requirements, starting very much with the end in mind. These are articulated out to supply chain for an employer's information requirement. What information do I need, when do I need it, in what format? We then procure it for what we call BIM execution plans. We then, and this is one of the key things, we pull it all together, starting to define who delivers what, when, and to what level of definition. That's called the Master Information Delivery Plan. We then start to build up our data sets. We can see there we're building up graphical data, non-graphical, such as COBE, and linked documentation, which might be PDFs. We go for each of the stages of our 0 to 7, or whatever the plan of work is for a project, building up this project information model. But the key thing is we're starting to transact. Relating back to employer's information, so we go through the design model, we start the construction model, and you can start to see we've got hard information exchanges back to our client that are actually supporting decision-making processes. So we've got contracted information exchanges set out in the protocol, but in between we have a series of exchanges that might be between the supply chain, between designer and main contractor, or main contractor and maybe manufacturers that are going all the way through that process. But we have a logical information growth that's supported by the Level 2 process. We'll then come up to the point of handover, so we're moving from project information model to the asset information model. And at that point, when we move into operation, we're moving to the companion document, PAS 1192 Part 3, that started to look at operational outcomes. So we're starting to think about information management now during the asset operational phase. So we can see again, it's pretty much the same. We've got our information management process in the middle, with supporting tools such as classification, the digital plan of work, and COBie. The only thing is we've switched off as a protocol. But we've got a new series, if you like, of use cases using PAS 1192 Part 3, which might be such things as replacement costing, asset unavailability impact, data analysis, and automated data transfer between CapEx and OpEx. And that's one of our key ambitions in Level 2, is to make that move through. So we start to see the tool set we're building. We've got PAS 1192 Part 2, Part 3. We've got BS 192 Part 4, COBie for information exchange. We've got forthcoming PAS 1192 Part 5, if you like, for mindful security. And we've got BS 536 in terms of soft landings, along with a series of tools such as our classification and digital plan of work to make things work a lot easier. I want to focus for a minute, if you can, in terms of BS 112 Part 4 COBie. It is key information exchange to facilitate digital transactions. It came out last year, and we can start to think about it fits in both in terms of infrastructure and the vertical marketplace. The COBie is really important because it ensures everyone can play their part in terms of open data. Nick Nisbet often compares to like a case that has got transparent sides. You can see how it can carry information, and we've got logical categorization in there in terms of systems and types, facilities, components and spaces, zones and floors, and attributes and documents. So lots of ways of putting into a case and lots of ways of taking out. You can see there in the diagram how the information genesis, we've got the push side, information coming all the way up through the assemblies, up to, if you like, our tier 1s, our lead designer, our main contractor. We bring that together and we make exchanges to support these red, if you like, diamonds, the client decision-making part. As we mentioned, COBie, we can pull out the data in many different ways. There's lots of plugins and such like now. Or indeed, we're seeing many people starting to use, if you like, IFC as a way of achieving COBie. But it is very much key to Level 2 BIM. Start to think about these data transactions. So you can see there, we've got our native model. We can pull out COBie, but then we can do something with it as well. We can validate data from it, but we might want to push it into a cost system or into a computer-assisted facilities management model. And we can start to think about automating that process. Key thing for Level 2 as well is starting to think about the soft landings process, and again supporting client decision points. But the key thing as well is the client starting to think about appointment right at the beginning of a soft landings champion, someone that's going to help bring CapEx and OpEx together. And we're also thinking about early defining of success measures for a project as well, and thinking about how we're going to start to use that data during the operational life cycle. So starting to build all these measures in at the very beginning is key. We'll go for a series of changes for each of our steps. We're exchanging information, that's maybe looking at objectives, but we're testing the model as well. You can see there it dropped to for the operational strategy. Can we effectively make it? We want to make sure we get, if you like, a soft start once we actually land. We want to confirm that we've got the right information, we've got the right engagement to actually take the information through. We want to make sure that we effectively hand over, train, and mobilize prior to handing over our asset as well. But ultimately, for me, one of the keys is the lessons learned, the post-occupancy evaluation. So we are continually learning through our assets, reviewing requirements and expectations through feedback. So we're kind of a 360-degree process through soft landings. We've also mentioned the forthcoming digital plan of works that will help us describe our geometrical requirements, our responsibilities right through the various stages. So it might be right at the very beginning, a client is starting to put responsibilities down, but you can see there the concept with our plan of work. We have our information models in terms of design model, the construction model, our PIM, and the asset model. So we're exchanging information at key times. So we mentioned it's important at Level 2 that the client can set out our plain language questions, asking the rest of the supply chain, but informing the client decisions. So we need to describe how much information graphically and non-graphically is required, both in terms of maybe COBie, a geometrical model, or it might indeed be 2D PDFs cut from the model. But we can see what the toolkit may look like. You can see there this is at stage 1 of our plan of work, and we can see a persona there on the right-hand side, a client, starting to build up their project objectives and what information they'll have during the various stages for the supply chain to actually start to build. So starting to put tasks and the responsibility. Start to digitize these early stages of that briefing process. And you can start to see there how we can digitize that through export to COBie, IFC, or Microsoft Object. Moving on to stage 2, and you can see that this becomes key. We're starting to think about objects now. We've got responsibility, but you see on the right-hand side, LOD and LI. So we're starting to think about level of definition, which is an amalgam of level of detail, how much, if you like, granularity in the geometrical model, along with LI, how much non-graphical information. Now by default, these will be set to the same as the stage. So you can see there we're at stage 2. The LOD by default is set to 2 and the LI. However, these can be decoupled to suit your plain language question. You might want to de-risk something, so you might increase your LI, or you might even, if you like, decrease your LOD, depending on the nature of your plain language questions that you see. But the key thing is, for the tool, we can give very clear definition on how much information is required at a point in time for our objects. Now it's important, and I really like this slide, it's by Crossrail, that shows the importance, if you like, of that interplay between the different geometrical models and non-graphical. Concept, obviously the importance in terms of the geometrical description. The plain language questions are often in terms of maybe fit from the context of a site, or in terms of aesthetics, or it might be adjacency. So the concept model, the geometrical, are very much important. We move through to our design, but we're starting to think more and more about analysis and performance data, i.e. the non-graphical data, so we're starting to put it in. By the time we get through construction, we'll probably reach that tipping point. It's maybe in terms of specification data, it might be cost data. We're starting to see that 50-50 balance between the geometrical model and the non-graphical. By the time we get through to commission, operate, and maintain, probably the bulk of our, if you like, our modeling simulation importance is very much on non-graphical and FM data, such as warranty information. So you can see that it's important to understand that level of definition, the playoff between LOD and LI. So again, what are we buying in terms of level 2? Well, number one, if you're a client, you're buying capability to deliver. You want to make sure your supply chain has, the capability. So we're testing it from many ways. We've got lots of working groups now out there that are building, if you like, assessment toolkits. That we've seen some great ones on the market. But PAS 91 is one of the, if you like, the simple ones that we can test capability there. We've got defined information requirements. When do I need my information that has been set out for the client in terms of employer's information requirement? We've also got, for the protocol, a client may be buying the right to use the data as opposed to buying that full intellectual property. However, it might be something that they may do, especially for a library. We've got model outputs, how much detail is required and what format we're going to be pushed that forward. And the main thing, we've got process. Everybody working to the same defined process for information delivery, either in terms of PAS 1192 Part 2 or Part 3, depending if you're working in delivery of operation. And we've got agreed data exchanges such as BS 192 Part 4 for COBie, along with maybe a federated model, and linked 2D PDFs cut very much from that model environment. So you can see there in terms of the different things that are coming together as we go through. So key in terms of understanding capability, information requirements, i.e. the EIR that the client's created or the client's professional manager. We're then using the protocol to actually define the information, and we're also put, you'll see there, point 5, the obligation to have an information manager to actually govern this whole process as we go through. What we're also seeing in terms of level 2, in terms of good practice, is not to see BIM in isolation. You can see there from the Ministry of Justice how they're starting to define it. The green parts are the BIM parts. You've got a BIM library, the level 2 BIM program, but they're starting to tie their parts there, lean working, KPIs, benchmarking, technical specifications, and that luggage tag there for soft landings, bringing it all together. So by June of this year, level 2 will be complete. We've built that part of the wedge, and we start to move very much into that delivery phase of bringing it all together, refining and optimizing. However, it's also worth looking forward to the future. The 26th of February, Vince Cable, Honourable Vince Cable, launched, if you like, the intent to create a digital built Britain, i.e. key component of that will be UK Level III Building Information Modelling Programme. And this will be herald a transition from us, from the world of construction working in an analogue economy to very much digital economy. Start to think about how we actually have that paradigm shift into real-time optimization. And it will build very much on level 2 and the savings that's been made. So, but please, it is a long-term program. If you think level 2 is probably taking 5 years to mobilize, it will take a decade for level 3. So level 3 is nowhere near there yet. It's a trajectory and a vision. And to achieve level 3, it'll be very much a case of passing through level 2 in terms of what we're doing. So, but again, it's important that we see these horizons. And the key sort of enabling things for level 3, we very much round about the Internet of Things, what it enable. And you can see there in terms of the analogy of the Formula One racing car as an asset, how it uses telemetry and sensors to answer very much performance related. It might be tire degradation, it might be in terms of fuel consumption, but we can start to create intelligent assets that are working very much in real-time information exchange. And you can see there where level 2, in terms of the triangles, the capital delivery data that's been transactional, when we start to capture through level 3 performance management data, we can start to think about creating intelligent buildings and infrastructure. And that will give us new thoughts in terms of contract procurement routes. But with level 3, we can start to learn more about integration of telemetry and how these can start to think about real-time, if you like, total cost and carbon output. So we're thinking with level 3 about more and more about the new data sets that will give us performance and operation and how we can fine-tune. And you can see there, in terms of we've got smart buildings coming up the wedge on the right-hand side. Also thinking about linking it with other data sets as well, in terms of smart transportation, water, performance management, so smart power, smart grid. And we break level 3 down into, if you like, 4 phases. Number 3A is actually enabling the level 2. How can we enhance, if you like, in terms of these data sets we're getting out? Level 3B, enable new technologies and systems such as sensor-rich, the Internet of Things. And level 3C, develop a new business model. Start to think about what we can get through performance management related contracts and what will that achieve in the context of smart grids and smart cities. And ultimately, again, staying at the vanguard as we have from level 2 to level 3D, capitalizing on that world leadership. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what we've got to do to get ready. But to recap, the requirements should be set out a level 2 project, and the employer's information requirements set out by, if you like, a client or a project manager. Level 2 will then have our processes for information management, either PAS 1192 Part 2 or Part 3 if it's an operation. We've got soft landings as a process. We have BS 1192 Part 4 COBE to help us exchange information. We have Part 5 in terms of cybersecurity. We have a protocol that I like to inject it all together into a commercial wrapper. And we've also got other parts there, such as the information manager, and we'll have, as we said, come April of this year, start to think about the tools that will make life easier for us. The digital plan of work and our core classification system will be very much key. So these systems, these processes are all online at the BIM task group. So please have a look. They're free to download in terms of what we're doing. And at that point, Barie, if you can open up to any questions from the floor.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Thank you ever so much. What I would like to say first and foremost is what you've just said towards the end there. We've had quite a few questions in. However, I'd encourage people as well to please do visit bimtaskgroup.org. Loads of the questions that have been asked will be answered on there. With that said, however, there are still a load of questions for you. I'm cautious of your time. However, the first one that I'd like to ask is, do you feel the BIM compliance effort in the UK will impact the United States and other parts of the world? If yes, then what are your thoughts on how and when those things will happen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we're starting to see it already, especially in the Middle East, where we've got lots of project managers that are maybe going out from the UK or indeed America, and starting to take a lot of our stuff out there. We're starting to see it already in places in the Asia Pacific area being used, as I know it's already been used in Russia. The other big thing is, the whole level 2 process is part of the backbone for the forthcoming ISO as well. So, the concepts, construction, building for level 2 those have to be very much part of that international standard as well. So I think it's fair to say that we're seeing elements have been used already around about the globe. So I think we've got a standard that can be proud of, and I think it can be transcreated elsewhere, especially for that value proposition. I think we are quite unique in terms of the UK, that we're quite cohesive in nature. I mean, while there's good work going on in America, like some of the GSA, Massachusetts Ports Authority, everybody's got their own standards and strategy. I think we've got some degree of cohesion in terms of the UK, that we're all working towards the same set of standards.
Sure. What I will say on that as well is we have lots of clients that are specifically looking for people from the UK because of the experience, the depth of experience that the UK guys do have, which is fantastic for us, obviously. Also, will you keep giving technical help to people from outside of the UK?
It's a very good question, actually, and yeah, I mean, what we've always said with this is it's really important that we didn't come up with a standard that couldn't be used elsewhere, and we've encouraged, and we've been one of the founders in terms of BIM Task Group of helping establish, if you like, we call it BIM for EU. So we now have a European working group. The last meeting, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I think it was about 15 member states. We had a meeting through Brussels, and again, just trying to encourage collaborative working and standards, because we think very much better together. So indeed, sure, we are helping very much in terms of, because we think it's great for UK business that we're promoting our skills and capabilities abroad as well. So very much in that agenda.
Fantastic. Okay. Another question: do you feel the product data template projects are worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we're all keen to make happen. Is to try and get some consistency of approach in terms of the product technical data sheets. I mean, at the key to unlocking level 2 success is the involvement of our manufacturers. Often they're the people that are giving all these wonderful data sets. And we have a working group. In fact, we've got two working groups. We've got BIM for MM squared, which is BIM for manufacturers and manufacturing. Yep. And we've also got the Manufacturer Strategic BIM Forum. And one of the things that we're looking to do especially with the MSBF, is to start to maybe try and at least create a bit of a round table to start to get a real good discussion going on these product technical data sheets.
Fantastic. How can we help clients understand what to expect when the project is complete, and how to integrate BIM data with their FM systems? And another one as well is, how can we organise our data to improve its use in facilities management systems?
It's a good question, and I think it's been a challenge for clients that, to actually understand what information they want right at the beginning of the project. And I think actually it's not the client that will do that, it will be the client's professional team, the project managers. But one of the things, I've been involved with a few projects myself, and one of the things is just actually go in and actually mine it. Go into a CAFM system and find out, what information do you have in there, what's the vanilla layer, and actually what are you using. So again, it's about discovery, sitting with, a few reports, with the client and their FM team to understand what data is going to be useful. It's often the case that at the start of a project, there's often no, there's no FM team there. I mean, clients, I think, should think more about early CAF, if you like, early FM engagement. I think that's key. But at worst case, it can still be done by proxy. But again, people go in. I think there's always a vanilla layer for most customers in terms of organizational information requirements. And again, what we say is get in, meet the customers, do the discovery workshops with them. I know it's something that with the task group, we've done that with the government department. Just getting the right people around about the table, and I think that's key. Just get the pens, the paper out, start scribbling the processes out on the walls, but just understand what information you did when, and actually what questions you're answering. One of the key tests we've got with level 2 is it bringing value, and it should always be a value proposition for the data that you're producing.
Okay, fantastic. A question from Andy. Don't you think that many people confuse BIM by thinking 3D design is BIM? So in essence, they're only doing a building modelling and don't see or understand the value of data and or information across the building lifestyle cycle. Do you see this as a failure by not providing clear examples of the value of data by concentrating on processes?
I think you're right. I mean, I think BIM, if you draw a heat map, it comes up. I think you could draw the line rising at the concept design stages, coming maybe back down halfway through construction sort of thing. But I think it's fair to say that, you know, through tools, especially for the digital planner work, we will start to see more and more early stage engagement in terms of defining information requirements. And then maybe, I mean, we're seeing it already that, you know, during the social and economic, the 0 and 1 stages, that, as you rightly say, we can use BIM to answer smart questions that might be on site selection for the use of our data sets. It's like anything, you know, we're trying to produce as much as well, but, you know, it's up to industry as well to actually, if you like, start to show some of the value cases as well in terms of what the private sector is doing. But I completely agree, Level 2 BIM is about utilising, if you like, our data sets right the way through our 0 to 7 stages, not just the 2, 3, 4 and 5. So it's key that we can do that, and I think it's a big thing for our project management community to rise up to the challenge in terms of, if you like, you know, how we start to brief, look at strategy and such like during these early stages, especially procurement, and then as we move into operation, how we leverage it. So completely agree that, you know, we need to demonstrate more and more how we can exploit the opportunities either side of the design stages.
Okay, fantastic. And also from Andy as well, you comment with regards to data models are important, but nothing was said with regards to where they will be hosted or stored, etc.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the key thing for us is, you know, and certainly with the government clients, is making sure that we know we have a common data environment, you know, to actually for people to share the information and going for our 4 quadrants in terms of work in progress, shared, published, and archived. So, you know, again, that's part of the Level 1 platform, but it's essential that there's a common data environment within there. And we're starting to see, indeed, a lot of the big projects, especially in infrastructure, starting to, if you like, you know, come up and start to host that even for that work in progress. And I think it's really important for clients as well. You know, we often go through a process that we go through great modelling sort of thing, and then we stop the modelling process and we cut some flat 2D, 2D, do all the line work, all this annotation sort of thing, just for someone to measure progress. And actually, if we're doing it, if you like, in terms of it's on a common data environment, a client can come in, look at the share space or the work in progress, and actually, without having to stop the model, actually realise how much progress is being made. So for me, that common data environment is so key in terms of what we're doing.
Sure, fantastic. Okay. Another question, would it be worthwhile if the industry defined a standard common data environment format going beyond the basic groups outlined in PAS 1192?
I think like anything, I think that's what, you know, we'll start to see people configuring come up with their own secret sauce. I think it's important that we have that, you know, initial baseline in terms of BS 11 to 2007 and PAS 1192 Part 2. You know, so, and it's key that people are all working to the same sort of, if you like, standard on a project. However, I think it's fair to say that we will see, if you like, early adopters that are really starting to push things on.
Sure. Okay. Fair.
Again, you know, the market will dictate. You always get people that come up and the secret sauce and start to lead.
Yeah, sure. Another question, is the construction industry as a whole really capable of delivering what is required for BIM? Most of the contractors we deal with are still struggling to understand and deliver comprehensive health and safety files. Don't know where that's coming from, apologies.
No, yeah, I mean, it's kind of thing. I think industry is going, you know, through a massive change. I mean, but you look and say, you know, what's the option?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. There is that, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't think there's a plan B. I mean, we could say, you know, let's just give up and leave all the work to others from other, you know, countries that become more efficient in doing it. And, you know, it would be naive, I think, to think that, you know, we in the UK are the only one that's thinking about better, not about BIM, you know, we said BIM's a Trojan horse, but better, more efficient ways of doing something. So you've got somebody that, you know, in Estonia, and I do use Estonia as a good example, that, you know, just go ahead and do these things and do, you know, maybe do it more efficient. We'll let them do so. I generally think we will, and I think projects such as High Speed 2 will really help upskill the UK workforce. Yeah. And I generally think we'll get there. Is it hard? Heck, yeah. But I think we're generally getting there. And I think as an industry, we should be proud of the tremendous, you know, journey we came in the last couple of years. I remember last year standing in Texas. You know, there was an award called the FIATEC Award, and I had the honour of going up to collect it on behalf of government and UK industry. And this was in America. You know, there was hundreds of people in the room. You know, talking about, you know, the actual how much the UK had came as an industry. And I think we should be really proud of, you know, how far we came together in this journey. But there's a huge, long way to go. And 2016 as well says a staging post in the journey. It's not an end game. It's not like Y2K that, okay, March 2016 came and gone. What's the difference? Well, we keep on going. We keep moving to that digital workflow. And actually, the big part for me is about the legacy we've got to leave, for the young people looking at careers. But let's make sure construction is something that seems to be innovative, technologically advanced, and people want to come in. We should be, I think, taking a leadership role in this and actually saying, we want to create an industry that we're genuinely proud of for the next generation.
Definitely. Thank you. The question's coming from James as well. Traditional construction contracts inhibit rather than support use of BIM and IPD. What is being done to address this in the UK?
Again, it's a good question. There's only one contract out. Currently, I think it's the CIV complex contracts one that actually has the word BIM within there, sort of thing. But contracts such as NEC obviously do encourage collaboration. But it's right to say that's collaborative. It's not integrated. But what some of the enabling components ultimately, I'm sure, of level 3 will be looking at these suites of contract that support the IPD forms of contract. I'm sure we could do some clever writing just now. But as part of that level 3, it'll look at that commercial shift into that IPD type model.
Fantastically. A couple of more questions, if you may. A quick question from Ralph. 90% of the industry is SMEs. A lot of people think this is overwhelming for the small businesses. Do you have any comments? Well, what are you?
Yeah, some of the best examples I've seen of level 2 BIM came from the SME community, and I think they're more agile. They're quick to change. Okay, for some it might need a bit of investment, but you think as you would in any industry, as in any business, you may have to make that sort of thing. But I think they've got less barriers. You go for a lot of medium-sized organisations, if you like, that change can be, any change can be quite difficult. There's layers upon layers of committees. You've got all the big tier ones that will probably go and buy it, or get dedicated people in to do it. But I think SMEs are little speedboats when it comes to these things. I think they're innovators. We often see, I think, some of the best in innovation. We've got groups set up such as BIM for SME. We had the Build Newcastle Live last week with lots of SMEs participating. It's just some amazing work that they're doing.
Fantastic. Okay. One last question, because I know you do have to shoot. How do you see BIM and the low carbon agenda?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. It's probably not been enough done in BIM and carbon. I think it's fair to say with level 2 we've seen some good examples of like embedded carbon, but not enough. I think we're looked often too much at generally as an industry. We're often capex cost focused. There's a great linkage between level 2 and carbon, but with level 3 we'll start to think more and more about these operational carbon sets. But there's a huge value proposition. And I think we see it more and more in terms of retained estate. We can use BIM to look at the best solutions in terms of do we knock it down, do we reconfigure, and we do all these early carbon assessments very rapidly in a model-based environment. But yeah, there's a huge, if you like, long goal to be had there.
Fantastic. Well, David, I'm conscious of your time. Again, I'd like to, lots of thank yous coming in from the box. I'd like to thank you as well. I'd like to thank the BIM task group as well. All you guys there are doing a superb job, really pushing BIM forwards, not just for the UK, but throughout the globe, which is fantastic.
Not a problem. I mean, the thing I say, please, visit www.bimtaskgroup.org. We try our best to do this and keep going, but I generally believe that everybody in the UK is heading in the right direction of level 2 BIM. Brilliant. And I think we'll all come out as a better industry in this. You want to be genuinely proud of.
Fantastic, superb. Well, I think we'll put a close to there. All I will ask is, again, thank you, David. What I will ask the people on this webinar now is, please stay just towards the end. There'll be a slide pop up. Mervyn Richards is speaking next week with regards to a year with PAS 1192. So a fantastic continuation for what David has blessed us with today. So with that said, is there anything else you would like to say, David?
No, but please, I mean, the standards are free to download. So PAS 112 Part 2 is a great starting point, and it's better than some of the rubbish on telly tonight. So.
Even EastEnders, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for everybody else as well. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, David. Bye-bye now.